Hey Reddit, throwaway for obvious reasons. I'm usually just a lurker, but I need to get this off my chest and hear some unbiased opinions. This isn't about a fight or a huge blow-up, it's more of a slow burn, a creeping realization that I might have inadvertently caused my best friend a lot of pain. And honestly, I don't know how to fix it, or even if it needs fixing. The story starts way back, in middle school. That's when I met Chloe. We clicked instantly. She was the bubbly, artistic one, always doodling in her notebooks, dreaming of grand adventures, and a lifeless ordinary. I was a bit more reserved, good at school, good at sports, but without that burning, singular passion she had. Chloe's dream, from the moment she could articulate it, was to own a small, independent bookstore with a coffee shop tucked inside. She had it all planned out. The cozy armchairs, the smell of old paper and fresh coffee, open mic nights, local artist showcases. She even had a name picked out, The Written Word and Brew. She dragged me to every bookstore we passed, pointing out what she loved, what she'd do differently. We'd spend hours in cafes and she'd sketch out floor plans on napkins. It wasn't just a fantasy, it was her future. And I, as her best friend, was her biggest cheerleader. I envisioned myself being a regular, maybe even helping her out sometimes on busy weekends. It was her dream, and I loved it for her. Fast forward to college. We went to different universities, but stayed in close contact. Chloe was studying English Lit, taking business courses on the side, always with The Written Word and Brew in mind. I, on the other hand, was floundering a bit. I started in pre-med because my parents expected it, but my heart wasn't in it. I switched to communications, then psychology, just trying to find something that stuck. I felt a bit lost, watching Chloe pursue her path with such clarity. During my junior year, I took an elective, entrepreneurship for non-business majors. I figured it might help me figure out something. For the final project, we had to develop a full business plan for a concept of our choice. My initial ideas were terrible. A dog walking app, a niche tutoring service, nothing sparked. One night, while on a video call with Chloe, she was gushing about a new independent bookstore she'd visited, describing its atmosphere in vivid detail. And then it just hit me. Not an idea for my future, but an idea for my project. I thought, who knows more about this than Chloe? So I decided to build my business plan around her dream bookstore concept. I didn't kill her immediately. I thought it would be a fun surprise. I used all her ideas, all the details she'd shared over the years. I even used the name, The Written Word and Brew, in my proposal. I pored over market research, drew up financial projections, designed a mock-up logo. It was, objectively, a brilliant plan. My professor was incredibly impressed. He told me it was one of the best he'd seen in years, incredibly well-researched and viable. He asked if I'd consider actually pursuing it. I laughed it off, explaining it was just a project based on a friend's dream. That's when things started to get weird, subtly at first. The professor, a successful entrepreneur himself, offered to introduce me to some contacts in small business funding. He saw real potential. I politely declined, reiterating that it wasn't my dream. But the seed was planted. Suddenly, what had been a fun academic exercise started to feel real. I'd never had a project I was so invested in. I'd never felt such a sense of accomplishment from something academic before. And embarrassingly, a tiny part of me started to wonder, what if I finally showed Chloe the project over summer break, thinking she'd be thrilled I'd taken her dream so seriously. I pulled out the neatly bound report, the detailed floor plans, the financial projections. Her face, which usually lit up at any mention of her bookstore, slowly fell. She flipped through the pages, her usual enthusiasm replaced by a quiet, almost stunned silence. When she looked up, her eyes were a little watery. "This is amazing," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You did all of this?" I beamed. "Yeah, I used all your ideas, even the name." She nodded slowly. "It's perfect. It's exactly how I've always imagined it." And then came the gut punch. "But why you?" My smile faltered. What do you mean, why me? It was a project. No, she said, closing the binder gently. I mean, you made it so real, so achievable. For you. I've been working towards this my whole life, but it always felt like a distant goal, something for someday. You just did it, for a class project. She continued, I've struggled so much with the business side of things, the finances, making it sound professional enough for investors, and you just did it in a semester. It feels like you just walked in and did what I've been trying to do for years, effortlessly. The conversation ended awkwardly. I tried to explain that I just followed her vision, that it was her genius, not mine, but the spark in her eyes when it came to her dream seemed to have dimmed. After that, things shifted. Chloe still talked about the written word and brew, but with less vigor, more uncertainty. She started mentioning other career paths, things that felt more realistic. Meanwhile, my old professor kept emailing me. He'd somehow gotten wind that I hadn't pursued anything post-graduation and reiterated his offer to connect me with angel investors. He genuinely believed in the plan I'd submitted. I was in a weird place after graduating. My parents were pushing me to get a real job. I still didn't have a clear direction, but the bookstore business plan kept nagging at me. It was the only thing I'd ever truly excelled at, the only thing that had ever genuinely excited me. And then a small space opened up in our hometown, an old, charming building with big windows, perfect for a bookstore cafe. The building was perfect. It was everything Chloe had ever described. I called her up. My voice was tight. Chloe, you remember that old hardware store on Elm Street? It's available. It's exactly the kind of place you always wanted. There was a long silence on the other end. Yeah, I saw it, she finally said, sounding deflated. It's gorgeous. I don't think I can pull it together fast enough. I still have a year of school and then the financing. Someone else will get it. In that moment, I saw a path that felt right, but ethically murky. It wasn't just about the space, it was about the idea. I asked her a question that felt like a test, but also like a desperate plea for permission. What if I tried? What if I used the business plan, got the financing, and we went on it together, like partners? You handle the literary side, the aesthetic, the events, and I handled the books, the finances, the payroll, the boring stuff you hate. I could practically hear her thinking, we? You mean you and me? Yes, it would still be the written word and brew. We could do it. She didn't sound excited. She sounded tired. You want to run a bookstore too? I thought you were looking at marketing jobs. I was, but I keep coming back to this, Chloe. I really enjoyed building that plan. I think I'd be good at the business part, and you're the soul of the idea. Another beat of silence. I don't know. It just feels like my thunder. She didn't mean to be harsh, but the words hung heavy in the air. It feels like if you do the hard part, the finance part, then you become the one who made the dream happen, and I'm just the sidekick. I tried to argue to reassure her, but she cut me off, her voice laced with resignation. Look, if you want to do it, then do it. You have the plan, you have the momentum. I'm going to focus on finishing school. Maybe I'll open my own place someday, somewhere else, a different name. I hung up feeling sick. She hadn't said no, but she hadn't said yes. She had given me a kind of pained, passive permission. It was a massive psychological loophole. I took the loophole. I called my professor, got those introductions, and within 6 months, I had secured enough seed funding to put a down payment on the building and start renovations. It was a whirlwind. I officially named it The Written Word and Brew. I kept every detail, from the layout of the cafe area, she wanted it tucked away, cozy, to the specific lighting over the fiction section, warm, inviting. But as the store took shape, the rift with Chloe widened. She'd come visit the construction site sometimes, silent and observant. She'd walk through the dust-covered rooms, touching the newly installed shelves. It was clear she loved it. She loved the realization of her vision. But she never offered to help, never suggested a pink color, never asked about inventory. "The espresso machine looks great," she said once, tracing the chrome with her finger. "It's the one you picked out in that magazine 3 years ago," I reminded her, trying to elicit a smile. She just nodded. "Of course it is." It was almost as if she was acknowledging that I had built her exact sculpture, but she felt like the clay had been stolen from her hands. The day we opened, 2 years after I made the business plan, was a huge success. The community loved it. People immediately gravitated toward the cozy atmosphere, the open mic nights, my idea, but based on her original concept, and the meticulously curated book selection. Chloe showed up late with a bouquet of flowers. She was sweet, congratulated me, and even bought a latte, but she stood apart. She didn't mingle with the customers or act like an owner. She acted like a very supportive but distinctly separate customer. A few months later, I tried one last time. We were sitting in the cafe after closing. I slid a partnership agreement, drawn up by my lawyer, across the table. It offered her a 30% stake in the business and a salaried position as the creative director, based purely on her intellectual contribution to the concept and her artistic expertise. She didn't even open it. She just pushed it back. "I can't. It would feel like accepting a consolation prize," she said, her voice soft but firm. "This is your business now. You took the risk, you signed the papers, you did the work. You even hired a great staff. You made my dream happen, yes, but you made it happen for you. And you know what the worst part is? You're better at the business side than I ever would have been. I would have run this place into the ground in a year with my inability to deal with spreadsheets. You're actually doing it justice." She paused, taking a long sip of her tea. "I think I was always in love with the idea of running a bookstore, the cozy aesthetic, the literary community, but you are in love with the act of running a business, the process, and that's the difference." It's been 5 years since that conversation. The written word and brew is thriving. It's my life, my passion, and my career. I love every single stressful, rewarding, caffeine-fueled moment of it. Chloe and I are still friends, but our friendship changed forever. She moved a few towns over, pursued a career in high school teaching, which she excels at, and opened a small Etsy shop selling custom literary art. She comes in once a month and we catch up. We talk about everything except the business. I often look around my beautiful, thriving store and feel this deep, complex wave of guilt and pride. I'm proud that I took a risk, used my analytical skills, and built something real. I'm proud that I brought her beautiful vision to life for our community. The store genuinely makes people happy. But the guilt is always there, too. It sits on the register next to the espresso machine. I realize now that what I truly stole wasn't just the idea or the name, but her opportunity, her chance to wrestle with that dream, to struggle for it, and to feel the pure, unadulterated triumph of making it happen for herself. My effortless success, born from a college project, made her decade-long pursuit feel like a failure, or at best an inadequate effort. I unintentionally took the challenge, the grit, and the eventual glory of that dream right out of her narrative. This whole experience has taught me a profound and grounding lesson. Dreams are not patents. Just because an idea is brilliant doesn't mean only one person has the right to execute it. But there's a heavy ethical cost when you execute someone else's lifelong vision, even if you execute it better. You have to live with the fact that your success might be rooted in their quiet, self-sacrificing retreat. You can build the store, you can run the numbers, you can pay the bills, but you can never truly own the original spark that ignited the whole thing. And sometimes succeeding at the life someone else wanted is lonelier than failing at a life you chose for yourself. Am I the ATOA? Maybe. Maybe not for taking the path, but definitely for not seeing the emotional landscape clearly enough until it was too late. I'm left with a successful business, a beautiful space,
and a best friendship that has an invisible, permanent scar right down the middle. Thanks for reading, Reddit. I needed to finally say that out loud.